First of all, I want to take this chance to welcome everybody online to this first ever Shansi virtual remote town hall. My name's Gavin Tritt. For those of you who don't know me, I'm the executive director at Oberlin Shansi. On behalf of the team and on behalf of our board and everyone who's participating, it's really thrilling to welcome you here today. We had about 70 RSVPs, and I think at this point we're up to about 35 or 36 online. So it's really a great response, and it's really gratifying, I think, for all of us to see that. So this is a new endeavor for Shansi, and like I said, we're really excited to have you join us here today. We conceived of this seminar, this online webinar, as a way to keep the lines of communication open with the community during the COVID-19 crisis. We knew there was a lot of curiosity about what is going on with Shansi programs, what we've been doing, what our fellows are doing, where they are. And we also know that for a lot of you, and I see Tom Gold is with us, the chair of his 50th reunion group, that this was also a year that, because of the lack of a reunion and commencement in person here at Oberlin, we lost out on having a Shansi breakfast this year. And that's always such a wonderful time for us to connect and meet with our community and our alumni. It's a great chance to introduce our new fellows and for them to meet with alumni who've been in their countries. And so we also wanted to take this chance to connect with the community and deal with the fact that we didn't get to have the breakfast this year. And frankly, for those of you who are interested in who the new fellows are, you can go to our website at shansi.org and check out the news tab and scroll down, and you can see actually introductions there from all of them. And we'll have some announcements coming up soon about opportunities to engage with some of the new fellows as well. So this afternoon, we're going to focus mostly on the COVID-19 response that a lot of people are very interested in, and talking a little bit about how the pandemic has affected Shansi programs and our organization this year, and then where we are going and where we see this evolving in the short term and the longer term. We'll answer a few questions at the end of the webinar. Quite a few people submitted questions in advance via the registration form, and I suspect others will have questions that come up during the discussion today. So you can use the Zoom chat function to send a question to Ted or to me, and we'll try to get to those as well at the end. Excuse, please, any technical glitches that come up as we go through this. It's been, we're trying to make it smooth, but as you know, there's always risks with technology. And finally, if things come up afterwards, we're going to post this recording of this webinar online for other people to view, but also if you have questions that come up, email them to us at shansi@oberlin.edu. I think Ted and I both feel this is going to be something we're going to try to do more over the next year and into the future, and we'd love to hear from our community about topics or issues or people you'd like to engage with if we have future meetups or webinars like this. So we'd like to begin with a brief update from our fellows. A few weeks ago, Ted reached out to our community of current fellows and the new fellows who have been selected and are preparing to go out to the field in the fall. And asked them if they'd be willing to submit a short video describing how they're doing and what they're doing now during this pandemic period and how they're reacting, and just sort of to update the Shansi community on what they're doing and how they're feeling about all this. And we were quite overwhelmed by the response and the number of videos that came back and the passion from our group. So we decided to put them together into a short video to show all of you today. Our multimedia intern at Oberlin Senior named Malaya Nordijk did a great job putting this together, despite having to deal with finals and virtual commencement. And so I hope you'll enjoy it. It's about 4 minutes long, and we'll show this and then come back to our presentations.
Hi everyone, it's Shansi. I've been back at home in Washington for about a month now.
I'm recording from my apartment in Tokyo.
Speaking to you from Carbondale, Illinois.
I'm currently back in Minnesota.
I am still living in Oberlin.
I'm here in Cleveland.
I'm currently still staying in Georgia.
I've decided to stay in Japan.
I've been teaching English online.
JF Oberlin and Shansi have both been in constant contact with me.
After a month of being in the US, I can tell it has been the right decision, even though I really miss my friends, my colleagues, and the landscape of where I was.
It was such a difficult and emotional decision to leave Hiroshima
but I'm so glad I got these lovely cards from my colleagues, all the kind words, the memories.
And I think a lot more consideration was given to us as Shansi Fellows than some of the friends that I've checked in with at Fulbright and Peace Corps.
They have respected my decision and continue to be really supportive with weekly check-ins.
I'm so grateful that Shansi was willing to have the flexibility and the conversations needed to allow me to do what works for me.
I'm glad Shansi took it case by case, and we're a small enough program that they could check in with us individually, and I've really felt supported.
I'm also grateful for having, this loving Shansi community that also always checking in and also making sure that my fellowship is on the right track.
It's been really grounding to receive support from the Shansi team and know that I'll still be able to take language classes this summer.
They've not only been very direct about what's been going on and what they can do, but also have been really trying hard to work with my needs. So I am very appreciative.
I've been able to continue Indonesian lessons with my Indonesian tutor, which has been great. And I'm feeling really lucky to be home and safe and with my family right now.
I've also been enjoying volunteering with We All Got a Steve, which is a mutual aid organization here.
I also have been helping out at my parents' ice cream shop.
And these are the ice cream machines we use.
On a positive note, I've been really energized and encouraged recently by the Earth Day 50 events that have been happening within the Oberlin communities.
As coronavirus is continuing to impact the world, these are all going to make it quite difficult for global connection. I think that institutions like Shansi do a great job of creating and maintaining these connections.
Instead of feeling left over or lonely, at home, I actually during this time I feel more connected, using the internet, with other people around the world who share this, the light of humanity in their hearts.
The connections I made in Hiroshima helped me find my passion in international development, and I want to build a career in. So on the last day I found out I was admitted to Harvard Kennedy School. And without this experience, I could have never taken the first step.
Otherwise, just taking it day by day. Wishing you all health and calm in this strange time.
So I think this was a really good idea to send fellows home, though I know most miss their sites. And I hope we could get back to our sites soon when everything's clear up. But right now, I'm very happy and content where I'm at. So thanks for checking in with the fellows.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ted Samuel, and I'm the Deputy Director of Oberlin Shansi. And I'm here to discuss Shansi's COVID-19 response and some of our plans moving forward. As you can imagine, Shansi faced unprecedented challenges in 2020. Our handling of COVID-19 began in January, when we were hearing reports from media sources and our partners in China about the virus. On January 31st, Shansi suspended in-country operations in China. We did so in consultation with our partners at Shanxi Agricultural University and Beijing Normal University. At the time, our Shansi Fellows were traveling in Southeast Asia. We worked with them to arrange for their return and ensured that their immediate needs were met upon their arrival to the United States. We also informed our fellows in India, Indonesia, and Japan of the decision and let them know that should the virus spread, we may have to evacuate them as well. We monitored the situation throughout the month of February, and after careful consideration, we gave fellows the option to voluntarily depart from their sites on the morning of March 11th. That afternoon, the World Health Organization declared a global pandemic, and we accelerated our decision to suspend all programs in Asia. Over the next few weeks, we worked with our fellows and our visiting scholars here in the United States to get them home safely. We took an individualized approach to ensure the safety and well-being of our fellows and visiting scholars. This required highly engaged dialogue. We were committed to answering questions as best as we could and learning about individuals' needs and sharing relevant information as it became accessible to us. However, at the same time, we recognized the urgency of the situation and were clear in our recommendations and our mandates. As you may have seen in the video that we played earlier, Shansi made accommodations for 4 fellows to remain in country. We did not take this decision lightly. But given each fellow's individual circumstances, we felt it best to honor their request to stay. We closely consulted with our partners and the fellows during this process and ensured that we had safety plans well established. Since making the decision to let them stay, I have checked in with each of those fellows twice a week to hear periodic updates and to make sure that they are safe and well. Though we have suspended in-country operations, we are happy to report that our work continues remotely. At Shansi Agricultural University in China and JF Oberlin University in Japan, our fellows continue to teach a full course load virtually. At Gadjah Mada University and Sekolah University in Indonesia, fellows have continued to engage with students via formal teaching, grading, and individual and small group instruction. At most of our non-teaching sites, fellows have either continued full-time work or they have taken on project-based work as assigned. As expected, some of our partner organizations are better equipped to host remote work when compared to others. However, we commend all of our partners for their commitment to our fellows. We'd also like to share our enthusiasm for the creativity and innovation that both our fellows and our partners have demonstrated over the past 3 months. These are unprecedented times globally, and the situation is far from ideal for Shansi or its affiliates. But in spite of this pandemic, the resiliency of Shansi's work and our partnerships have shined since March. Moving forward, we expect remote work to continue. This summer, most of our incoming fellows will engage in their summer language training online. While we believe that language acquisition is strongest when a fellow studies in country, we also wanted to offer our fellows the opportunity to acquire basic communication skills before they begin their formal work at their host organizations in September. In the coming month, Gavin and I will continue to discuss plans to resume in-country work for our partners. It is likely that we will consider potential scenarios in which fellows will work from the United States for at least part of the fall. Given the positive response that we've seen from partners in the past 3 months, we are optimistic about this collaborative planning. The next big question that we are in the process of addressing is, when will we send the fellows back? While we will take a well-informed, data-driven approach to tackle this question, we also acknowledge that there is no single formula to guide this decision. As the summer progresses, we will continually look at a number of different factors to gauge when to send fellows back into the field. Some of our primary considerations are listed in this slide. First, we cannot make plans to send a fellow abroad if their host organization is not ready to receive them. Our partners have complete agency in this process. If they prefer to keep engagement remote, we will respect that decision. Second, we have to look at a fellow's ability to travel. Right now, some countries are limiting the entry of non-citizens. Some of our fellows may not even be able to get the appropriate visas or work permits in order to do their work. Furthermore, we plan to consult with fellows to ensure that they are physically and emotionally prepared to travel. Just as our partners have agency in this process, so do our fellows. Third, we plan to consult recommendations given by the State Department, the World Health Organization, and other local agencies in the regions where we work. Statements, information, and advice from these organizations are critical as we make decisions about the future. Finally, we intend to consult with our peer institutions throughout this process. This includes organizations like Yale China, Princeton in Asia, the Asia Foundation, and the American India Foundation, all of whom run similar fellowship programs to Shansi. Moving forward, we will take reentry on a case-by-case basis. It is likely that we will send some fellows back into the field before others. However, regardless of the timeline of their return, fellows can expect full support from us. We made a commitment to them when they decided to take the fellowship. Though there is still so much that is out of our control, we intend to honor our commitments as best as we can. Before moving on, I want to take a moment to address our fellows who have been nothing short of champions over the past few months. When you took this fellowship, I doubt many of you would have envisioned the events that we've experienced in 2020. However, in spite of the challenges that you faced, you have shown a high degree of strength, resilience, and innovation that is both rare and extremely admirable. Gavin and I are honored to be working with you. And now I will turn it back over to Gavin.
Thanks, Ted. And there's just so much that came, so much richness in that presentation, and so much that I take away from that, Ted. Thank you. And I think one of the things that when we were talking through this event and we were talking through what we wanted to talk about, one of the things that really struck me was how I was taken with the dedication and resilience from the fellows, from our visiting scholars who were all here in Oberlin when this started to, when this pandemic, not only when the pandemic situation starts, but when they start to see their own countries having problems, like in India, and our partners who responded with so much incredible support for our fellows. And of course, as Ted said, for the fellows. And I also want to note the staff. Ted, you have been incredible throughout this process, and I'm sure all the fellows who are on this call would join me in giving a big clap and shout out to you for just your dedication and your tireless efforts on their behalf. It's meant so much to all of us, so thank you. So I want to take a little bit of time here to reflect on some of the core values that animate Shansi's work, and this is because I really think it is important to reflect back on some of what you've learned from what Ted talked about, some of what's animated and informed the decisions we've made and the way Shansi works, but also because it's important to understand how we might be moving forward and are considering approaches and changes and new programs in the future. So I want to explore that a little bit and talk a little bit about some of what Ted and I and the board see as some of the underlying values that inform what Shansi does. And then I'll launch into an update on programs, a short discussion of some of our ongoing work, and an introduction to some of our newer program initiatives. So the first value I want to talk about is this commitment to the transformative power of international exchange. This idea that lives are changed forever by these cross-cultural exchanges, that we and the people we live and work with are changed forever and for the better by these interactions. It's something that I feel deeply and personally from my experiences. I think Ted feels the same way, and I know many of our board members who are Shansi Fellows feel the same way too. It is why we do what we do. Ultimately. And, Ted talked about how online engagement has become a crucial way to bridge this gap as we deal with the implications and the impact of the pandemic. But we also recognize these can't be permanent modalities. We will not be the kinds of transformative international exchange that Shansi focuses on can't be in the long term accomplished online. You can't replicate that relationship building, the overcoming of challenges, the way we find nuanced ways to negotiate differences online, right? We need those conversations over tea and Taigu Bing, over kopi sanger or masala chai, or standing around a takoyaki stand with friends. These are the richness and the heart and soul of what we do in programs like this. So that being said, we've learned a lot these past 4 months, and our partners have learned a lot these past 4 months, and our friends at Oberlin College too have learned a lot about how remote interaction actually might be able to enrich what we do. And this is one of the things we'll be talking about, I think, a lot over the coming months and the coming year, how we can incorporate more of what we've learned is possible because of remote interaction to enrich and advance Shansi's mission. Oh, And I did want to say, I'll tell you a little picture on this slide is of a visiting scholar named Abdullah Nasution from Aceh. And he and his colleague from India were so happy about what they had accomplished here at Oberlin and the warm welcome they had, that on their last day before they had to go home, they decided to paint one of the boulders in Tappan Square. So you can see they did a pretty wonderful job there. And the second value, or the second thing that I think is really important to draw out from this presentation, is the commitment to the safety and security of our program participants. It seems obvious in some ways, but it's a crucial element of what we do. And I think you can only see it even more powerfully in Ted's presentation earlier. It's a luxury, perhaps, of being a smaller organization. We can respond to our fellows and our visiting scholars and all of our program participants as individuals, but it helps us to build that kind of trust and that kind of community that not only informs and makes these wondrous fellowship and visiting scholar experiences real, but also helps us cope in times of crisis like I've had over the last 4 months. So that commitment is really important to us. And it's also why, as Ted said, we'll be cautious about confirming when our fellows return to the field this fall. That's something that's going to take some time and thought and care. But we also know how much we can rely on our partners in the field, like the family of Paksiamsul in Aceh and all of the colleagues that are fellows in Aceh, like you can see here, Emily Peterson and Sydney Jarvis from the last year, experience with their colleagues and their friends at Shakwali University. So that leads into what I think is a third key aspect and key value underlying what Shansi does, and that's our commitment to long-term partnerships. We value them. It's a big part of what Shansi is about. We've been working at UGM, Universitas Gadjah Mada in Yogyakarta, for over 40 years. Our relationship at JF Oberlin University starts in the 1950s and has been continuous since 1980. And you can see in this picture here the historical legacy of our relationship in Shansi province in Taigu. This is me pictured with our two current Shansi Agricultural University fellows, Lapriya White on my left at the far end and Radia Lalu on the right, my right at the far end, your left. And flanking me are the president of the university and Fan Bingxiang, the head of the international office, who any China fellow of the last 25 years knows very well. So we've been working on and off with Mingxian School, Shansi Agricultural University for more than 100 years. So why are these important? These long-term relationships are critical to that safety and security we talked about before, but also to the relationships and the experiences the fellows can have, to their onboarding, to having a built-in set of friends and supporters and people who understand where they're coming from. And I think this is a very crucial part of the successful experiences so many of our fellows have. At the same time, we also have to think about the possibilities of stagnation, how changing circumstances among our partners and our friends and the students here at Oberlin and everyone on the US side can change. So we also have to get attentive to that, to these changing circumstances and priorities, and thinking about ensuring every day that our partnerships are of mutual benefit to both our friends and partners in Asia and the communities where our fellows are located, as well as to our fellows themselves. Fourth, I want to talk a little bit about what I think is also a really crucial part of what Shansi is about, and it reflects the values also of Oberlin College where we're located, and that's this idea that we are committed to democratizing international exchange opportunities. And this is particularly resonant, I think, for all of us with the events of recent weeks. The protests around our country demanding justice for the murders of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, and so many others remind us how far we have to go as a nation to address systemic racism and inequality. At Shansi, we talk about our value of joining worlds and linking relationships between Asia and the communities in Oberlin, and we have to remember that these do not exist in a vacuum. Meaningful exchange requires dialogue around critical issues like these, like systemic racism, institutional inequality. And it means that Shansi, as a responsible actor here, also needs to do all we can to ensure these transformative opportunities are available to everyone at Oberlin. We've been thinking about this a lot over the years. We have to ask ourselves, are our recruitment and outreach processes inclusive, participatory, open to everyone? Is our selection process unbiased? Does our pre-departure preparation bring in diverse experiences, resources, points of view? And I think this is something we'll can not only continue to work on, but we'll have to be even more attentive to in the coming months and years. I've been very pleased, though, with some of the initiatives I think reflect this commitment to this democratizing of international exchange opportunities. To give you one example, this year in our pre-departure orientation sessions for new fellows in January, Ted and our returned fellow this year, Eli Fisher, introduced some new sessions on being a person of color abroad and a new session on being LGBTQ abroad. And they brought in alumni and voices and experiences from the Shansi community to engage with and support our fellows in a way that I think shows how much and how seriously we take these commitments to our fellows. So these are all really, these are all these values inform what we've been up to, what we're doing, how we've crafted our programs, how we responded to the pandemic, and now also how we think about the future. So I'd like to now sort of step into talking a little bit about where we are on a program. We've got a lot of questions from our participants during the registration process. Ted went over all the COVID response stuff very closely, so I want to step back from that and give a broader update on our programs from a longer term perspective. I'm going to focus here on the fellowships because, frankly, most of the participants online are fellowship alumni or members of the community who think of that when they think of Shansi. But I want to remind you, too, we still have our Visiting Scholars program, bringing people from China, India, and Indonesia here to Oberlin. We have in-Asia grants that send first, second, and third year students support their projects abroad during winter term or summer. We have campus programs like our Jacobs and Coco Distinguished Lecture Series. So if you're interested in the bigger picture and getting more in depth on all of this, check out our website, shansi.org. There's a section on each program. There are wonderful fellow narratives under the fellowship section, those reports that tell you about the personal experiences they're having, and our new annual reports online there as well. So, Shansi. First off, we have long-standing partnerships with 6 universities in China, India, Indonesia, and Japan. Shansi Fellows in these places teach, but they also lead extracurricular and co-curricular programs, manage, in one case, a global study center, and do just tons of stuff on campus to bridge these divides. We got some pictures up here that are a lot of fun. On the top right, you can see LaPria again at Shansi Agricultural University with one of her graduate student classes. You know, the fellows there teach graduate students in the agricultural sciences who are required to take English language courses to pass their exams, and also undergraduate English majors. They run extracurricular activities. On the bottom left, you can see our three current fellows from JF Oberlin University, I think down outside the Yokohama Chinatown, but when they're not down there eating and having a fun time with a friend for dinner, they're teaching English conversation, writing, even sometimes reading to first-year JF Oberlin students. They're serving as resource people at a one-on-one writing tutoring center. They're running conversation groups at lunchtime, roundtables for students interested in studying English in a deeper way. They're running an after-school club. They're really involved in the JF Oberlin's community at an incredibly close level. And we have ongoing partnerships still in India, Lady Doak College. You can see in the top left corner our previous fellow, Olivia Hay, where she started a Model UN club and a passport club for students there, supported international service learning programs that brought students from Korea, Japan, Hong Kong, and China to the Lady Doak campus. And of course, we have 2 wonderful partners in Indonesia, at Shakwala University in Aceh and at Gajah Mada University in Yogyakarta. So on the one hand, we have these more traditional programs that are ongoing, and then we have complement these with an emerging set of partnerships with non-governmental organizations and other organizations that are outside the education sector and provide more service and pre-professional development kind of program opportunities for fellows who want to work in a different kind of way. So I'm going to take a quick short time to give you a quick review of 3 of our newest programs that we've introduced over the last 4 years and that I'm continue to be very excited by. First, our fellowship in Hiroshima. which was launched in 2016. And you can see here a view of the A-bomb dome from actually the office of one of the program partners. So our fellow has a very interesting view of the Hiroshima escape from there. We have 3 partners that we work with there who our fellow is embedded with. The primary partner is the United Nations Institute for Training and Research, UNITAR, which is a UN agency that focuses on training programs for government and civil society officials from conflict-affected nations around the world. They also have other programs on areas like anti-corruption, sustainable development, even cultural heritage preservation. So our fellow spends 3 days a week working with UNITAR on a range of their programs, whether it's included interviewing potential Iraqi participants in a training program via Skype, or organizing a training program for Afghan women coming to Hiroshima. It's really an amazing opportunity. And then they work also with 2 local NGO partners who are closely affiliated with UNITAR. One, ANT Hiroshima, focuses on peace education and advocacy and telling the Hiroshima story of recovery and rebirth, and to try and spread a message about the dangers of nuclear war, nuclear power. And then there's Green Legacy Hiroshima, which some of you may have heard a little bit about in the past. This is an organization that was founded to preserve the trees, the survivor trees in the epicenter area of Hiroshima that survived the atomic bomb blast back in 1945. And they do work to preserve the trees and also to collect the seedlings and grow saplings that they then share with organizations around the world who plant the trees and set up their own peace gardens. So if you're able to come back to the Oberlin campus anytime soon, let's hope maybe for perhaps for commencement reunions next year, check out Tappan Square or in front of Shansi House. You can see a couple of ginkgo trees that are growing from Hiroshima seedlings. Out at Kendall at Oberlin, there's 2 ginkgos and some other trees growing. So there's a wonderful mutual exchange aspect to this as well. So this is a program that we launched in 2016, and our 3rd Shansi Hiroshima Fellow will be heading out this fall to work there. Second initiative I'll tell you a little bit about is actually our newest partner, which is the Keystone Foundation in Kotagiri in Tamil Nadu, which is in the Nilgiri Biosphere Reserve. And probably, I think some of you online who've had Madurai-based fellowships might be familiar with the area. It's filled with tea plantations, and it's a beautiful area, but also one that faces a lot of challenges, especially for the indigenous people and local communities that depend on non-timber forest products and that are challenged in terms of environmental degradation in their community. So Keystone has been around about 20 years, more than 20 years, and their 3 dynamic co-founders are still part of the organization, and they run a series of environmentally conscious programs focused on health, livelihoods, well-being of indigenous peoples and local communities. They work on promoting marketing and growing practices for non-timber forest products that provide income support for these communities. It's really a dynamic organization. As I was telling our new fellow, Madeline Gefke, who will be going out there in September, there's also a tremendous amount of wildlife on the campus there. When I visited, I was told that not only can one see monkeys and indigenous water buffalo, there's the occasional bear and even tiger that might show up on the campus. So there's a lot of action at the Keystone Foundation, but we are really thrilled with this opportunity for Oberlin, especially environmental studies students, to pursue out in Tamil Nadu. Okay. And then third, I want to tell you a little bit about our Independent Fellowship. The Independent Fellowship is an opportunity for these incredibly entrepreneurial and creative Oberlin students to create their own 2-year Shansi Fellowship. It builds on the wonderful experimental fellowship model that Shansi had in the 1970s, and inspired also by the experiences of Watson Fellowships, these 1-year fellowships people can acquire to study something around the world over the course of a year. We felt, hey, this is a great way to harness the energy of Oberlin students who might not be inspired by going into an existing relationship, but might have some great idea on how they could bring their skills to share and also learn from a 2-year fellowship opportunity in Asia. So we launched this in 2018, and our first independent fellow, Laura Jingyi Lee, is just finishing up the second year of her fellowship at Tactopia, which is a social enterprise in Japan that works with Japanese high school students to promote on programs that promote global awareness and globalization understanding, but also entrepreneurship skills. These are critical issues in Japan and among youth in Japan. Laura has been able to work on curriculum development, multimedia content creation. She's created her own workshop programs for high school students on using documentary and filmmaking to express themselves. She was a cinema studies major here at Oberlin. And she's done administrative and marketing outreach stuff and video content creation for Tactopia. And this is a great picture of Laura, who's there in the middle of the picture with the Tactopia staff after they had a staff workshop on multimedia content. So Laura's just finishing up in Japan, but we're really excited. We have now selected a new independent fellow this year, Sheng Kao, who will be headed out to Taiwan in the fall, where she'll work with New Bloom magazine. It's a political and social issues journal, an online magazine that really focuses on politics and social issues that are important to young people in Taiwan and the rest of Asia. Sheng will work on journalism, administrative issues, she'll be organizing events, and she'll be working on developing their oral history projects. They had a wonderful oral history project on the sunflower movement, and now are launching a new one on the White Terror in Taiwan that she'll be a part of. So, you know, for Shansi, we've had in recent years a number of in-Asia grants to go to Taiwan, but this will be our first Shansi Fellow, I believe, to Taiwan since 1979. So we're really excited to have the opportunity to re-engage and reconnect. And we're really excited for what Sheng will be able to accomplish while they're there in Taiwan. So overall, you know, this is giving you a quick, and I'm probably talking really fast, but we have 14 fellows that will be with us this fall, and hopefully not too close. Hopefully they'll be out in Asia by the time we get deep into fall. And that total has been pretty stable in recent years, although we have had some substitution of new NGO fellowship and independent fellowship positions for teaching posts. So we are hoping to avoid any contraction for 2021. But it also depends on the economy. It depends on donor support. As Ted mentioned, a lot of uncertainty going forward. I think one thing I can be pretty confident of is the visiting scholar program will be smaller this year due to all of the uncertainties globally and at Oberlin. And I do worry a little bit about our independent fellowship and being able to recruit in the future if we have to contract in terms of some of our fellowship programs. So we're really excited about these new directions, about these new programs, and I think we've been really gratified to see the response from the Oberlin student community as well, and the applications and the creativity, especially we have seen with the independent fellowships. So I think I've probably gone on long enough on this and telling you about our directions, but I'd like to take a chance now to introduce Sarah Newman. Sarah is the Shansi board chair. She is one of the first two Shansi fellows that went to Shakwali University in Aceh when that program was launched, following the 2004 tsunami that devastated Aceh province and many other areas in the region. So Sarah's going to we invited Sarah to share with us some of her thoughts on the pandemic and also Shansi going forward. So I'm really pleased to welcome Sarah here with us today. Sarah?
Thank you, Gavin. So I want to start by saying, you know, as board chair, I am so very proud of how Shansi, and in particular you, Gavin, and Ted have handled the pandemic evacuations and also the planning for the future. I'm also very proud of how Shansi is doing everything possible to honor commitments to both our fellows and our visiting scholars. You know, fellows continue to earn their full stipends and benefits right now. And like a lot of us still working from home right now, they continue to engage with Shansi's partner institutions remotely. So I'm really proud of the work that Shansi is doing and that you're supporting. Because of all the economic uncertainty right now, maintaining Shansi's fiscal commitments to program participants has been no small feat. Shansi's made that possible in part, though, by preparing for the possibility of a financial downturn. This included efforts over the past several years, actually, to reduce overhead costs to encourage long-term fiscal stability. And just to put some numbers on it, since 2015, Shansi has reduced spending by more than 15%. And at the same time, it has retained existing programs and built new ones like the three that Gavin just mentioned. In 2020, 5 years later now, we've maintained our current programs, and we've also ensured that the benefits for fellows and visiting scholars remain among the most generous and comprehensive offered by any international exchange program. And on top of that, Shansi's new fellows have shown the depth of our commitment to investing our resources in innovative professional opportunities for young Oberlin alumni. All of this demonstrates how important the values are that Gavin spoke about earlier. Shansi's faith in the power of global exchanges, our commitment to fellows and program participants, and the value that we place on partnerships. It's true that we're facing the challenges of the COVID-19 pandemic with those values very, very closely in mind. You've heard how committed our fellows have been despite these circumstances, and how our budgetary accountability has really prepared us for this. But Shansi's financial situation is far from perfect. We do need support from our community now more than ever. Shansi depends on income from our endowment for the majority of expenditures, and on individual gifts for the rest. The financial downturn that happened earlier this spring, the Shansi endowment declined by nearly 15%. By the end of March. We have recovered some since then, but it's definitely nowhere near previous levels. We really believe in our programs, and we expect that the coming year will be challenging and different on a number of levels. But safety permitting, our goal is to see all of our fellows in Asia this fall. Ted and Gavin told you how that can happen, and I hope that you and the rest of the Shansi family can help us ensure that Shansi programs continue this year and next year. So I'll end by asking that you all consider making a gift this year. And if you have already, perhaps this would be a nice time to consider giving a bit more. Shansi's fiscal year ends on June 30th, and I hope you'll join me by heading over to the Shansi website after this program. That's at shansi.org/donate to make a gift to our annual fund or one of our endowment funds. And if you're excited by our Hiroshima Fellowship that Gavin told you about, you can designate your gift to that program specifically, and my fellow board member, Trustee Kim Golden, will match you 100%. Anyway, thank you for joining us this afternoon, and thank you for considering a gift to Shansi this year. I will turn it back to Ted and Gavin now, who I know they have one more video to share with you all, and then they'll open it up for Q&A. So thank you, and thank you, Gavin and Ted, for all your hard work recently.
Thank you so much, Sarah. We appreciate that. Thank you for your comments, your appeal for support, and all the support that you've given us as well. This town hall has been focused mostly on Shansi's COVID-19 response and some of our new programs. But I think it's important for us to end our presentation with a reminder of why we do what we do. As Gavin mentioned earlier in this town hall, we believe in the power of international exchange. I'll admit that when we reach out to our community, we tend to focus our attention on the fellowships program. And while we take great pride in the history and impact of Shansi Fellowships, it's important to remember that Shansi's programs are diverse and multilateral. We don't just send young Oberlin alumni abroad. We also have the chance to work with faculty and staff from our partner institutions who come to Oberlin for research and to audit classes. In the fall of 2019, we were honored to host Dalila Husna Yunardi, a junior lecturer at Shakwala University.
My name is Delila Husna Yunardi. I am from Banda Aceh, Indonesia. I'm a lecturer in Shakwala University and I teach computer science. I am taking Arabic and then rhetoric and composition, and I'm also taking gamelan classes. I've always wanted to learn Arabic, but language lessons are very expensive. And then when I came here, there's a teacher who's teaching Arabic, so I thought, why not take Arabic? And I'm struggling with my writing, so that's why I'm taking rhetoric and composition, so I can improve on my writing again. By taking that, I think it should help me in the future. Oberlin is a very creative place, and I wouldn't have the chance to learn gamelan where I'm from. We are from Sumatra, so we have different musical instruments. Gamelan is predominantly in Java, in Bali, so I won't have the chance if I go back home. By doing gamelan, it's one of the ways that I can, showcase Indonesian culture. So it's kind of like touching the creative side that I might have never ventured out of. Oberlin is very, very welcoming to everyone with whatever creative side that they have. So I've grown to explore that side of myself. Shansi has provided me with opportunities. They have provided me professional support. They have taught me how to present myself, how to be around people, different kinds of people. And then they've also taught me how to be more in tune with yourself, both personally and professionally. I think Shansi has provided me those opportunities.
Ted, thank you for introducing that wonderful video. All right, it's about 2:51. We promised to keep it from 45 minutes to an hour. So I think we do have a little, obviously we won't be insulted if any of you drop off, but we do have a little bit of time for question and answer. So Ted, why don't we move in to do a little bit of Q&A? And there are about 20 questions we received online, and some of them, I think quite a few of them we've answered already. But maybe just to expand on one, a couple of people asked about specifics around how partners are doing and their plans to reopen. And as Ted said, everything's in a state of flux here, but I will mention, just so you have a sense of the feel of it, not only are we working through this here at Oberlin College and all of these peer institutions, the USA, our partners are doing the same. So we do know, for example, that Shansi Agricultural University has started a phased reopening this spring and expect to be and hope to be fully operational by the fall. Other partners are still in the middle of their academic terms, right? Like JF Oberlin University, and our fellows are still teaching right now. So I think everyone's starting to figure out what the fall will be like. So that was one set of questions. There was another set of questions, and I'll throw this to Ted, people asking about our current fellows and how they engage with Shansi alumni. And we've been talking about this kind of issue a lot lately. So Ted, do you want to say a little bit about our thinking in this area?
Yes, we love it when our alumni want to support our fellows. That is what makes this community so lively and so vibrant. And one of the things that we've been working on for the past several weeks and will continue to work on over the summer is an alumni mentorship program for professional development. We are still in the planning stages of this. This summer, we have hired an intern, Olivia Hay, who is a former fellow from Mother Eye at Lady Doak College. And she's helping us to define a structure for this and to recruit alumni volunteers who want to help our fellows find ways to translate this really transformative experience into resumes, into cover letters, into future job opportunities. So you can expect to see some profiles that we're posting on our website of some of our impressive and wonderful alumni. And you can expect to see some announcements from us, hopefully by August.
Oh, good. Thanks, Ted. Several people asked, how are Shansi administrators taking care of yourselves and your families? And frankly, I suspect it's a lot like all of you, holding up on Zoom in our homes, taking the dogs for long walks to escape the family sometimes. But I think I've been really feeling very good about the kind of community we have and how we've all been able to work together. I don't know, Ted, how about you? How have you been keeping it together during this period?
A lot of cooking and a lot of Netflix. So thank you.
We just had a great question come in. Some of you may be able to guess who wrote this, but I'm gonna not try to answer it, but just throw it out there as something that's really important and that we're thinking about. One of the people on the Zoom had asked, during the Trump administration, America's intended and perceived role in the world has been changing. How, if at all, is this affecting Shansi and the lives of the fellows and scholars? Great question. And in fact, I think this is at the heart of what we do when we go back to that commitment, the discussion of commitment to international exchange and democratization of fellowships. This is all about what we feel is so critical about what we're doing at Shansi. And yeah, I think it makes it hard for our fellows when anytime you're asked questions like, why is it like this in America? And you feel like you're a defender and you're also trying to explain and come from your own point of view. And it makes it that much harder for our fellows. And I think so far, over the last, before the craziness of this year, I think we've found that our partners and our host countries have been very welcoming of our fellows. We have not had any issues out of the ordinary, right, Ted, with visas. And I think there's a tremendous, I'm so impressed and so gratified to see that, like we hope, people are able to make that distinction between governments and people and between what you may feel about United States policy in Asia or domestic policy and how you feel about that young American who's teaching at your university or working at your NGO. So in one sense, it affects us tremendously, but in another way, it's really amazing to see it does not negatively affected our fellows in their lives. And for our visiting scholars, I'll tell you, I was really worried about getting visas for our visiting scholars from Aceh after the 2016 election and the inauguration in January of 2017. And knock on wood, we have not had any issues since then with visas for our visiting scholars. And I can only hope that'll continue. So that's a partial answer to that question. I'm sure there's a lot more we can say. Ted, I think we got a couple questions on about sort of international students and stuff. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, absolutely. We've gotten some questions about international students and their ability to participate on fellowships. And one of the things that we consider to be a core value in terms of our democratizing international opportunities is an understanding that we cannot discriminate based on a person's country of citizenship. So with that said, when possible, we will work with international students who want to consider and apply for Shansi Fellowships. With that said, there are some limitations that are out of our control. Specifically with our teaching fellowships, certain countries will not grant the types of visas that are needed for teaching if you are not from the United States, the United Kingdom, from Canada, or from Australia or New Zealand. And that creates a barrier that is beyond our control. But with that said, as you've seen, in our video, we've worked with international students in Hiroshima. Jenny Luan and Laura Lee were both able to go to Japan for the Independent Fellowship and for the Hiroshima Fellowship, respectively. And we want to encourage our international student community to come and talk to us about what types of opportunities are available to them. Shansi, as we said, we are not a unilateral organization. We do not just send young Americans abroad. We are about really diversifying the way that we view international work and international exchange.
After all, we are all about Oberlin students, not Americans. We're about providing opportunities for Oberlin students to continue their education, their learning, and get immersive cross-cultural experiences. So I think it's been great. And since I've been with Shansi, we've had not just Laura and Jenny, but others who have been international students at Oberlin who've been able to go abroad and have been amazing Shansi fellows. And it adds a different kind of dimension to this whole experience as well for their cohort and for their partners and for them. So it's been really nice.
We just got a message from Ruby Saha, who was also an international student from a few years ago. And Ruby notes that as an international student who didn't qualify for other fellowships, Ruby really appreciated that Shansi was available to her. And that is true. There's a lot of fellowship organizations that will not consider applications from international students, and we do not want to be a part of that company.
Of course, it does make Ted's job a little bit more difficult when visas come into play. Okay, well, it's nigh on 3 o'clock here. Ted, do you have any other questions that have come into you that you think you'd like to respond?
I think we've covered the general questions that have come into me.
A nice question from one of our viewers, one of our listeners, who asked about the old Shansi Letters, noting that our sort of stories from the field are more recent and go back about 5 years, and that there's, you know, decades and decades worth of these amazing letters. And sometimes Ted and I pull these off the shelf when we want to be inspired by someone writing, some fellow in Japan in 1953 or in Korea in 1978 writing about their experiences. And, you know, maybe we'll think about a way to bring those online in the future too. So that's certainly something we can think about. And of course, for those of you who have would be interested in some selections of these, there is the book that was compiled around the time of the centennial. There's not only the centennial book, but there's also letters from home. And we have a couple boxes of those still in the basement at Shansi House. You know, if you're interested, next time you're in Oberlin, definitely let us know in advance and we'll have a copy for you to pick up. And as Ted's saying to me, reminding me, or email us at shansi@oberlin.edu.
Yes, please feel free to engage with us through our email addresses, or if you have our personal email addresses, we're more than happy to chat. As Gavin said in the introduction to this, we realize that this can be something that we can do more often, these types of town halls, especially for the people who can't travel to campus. And we are happy to talk about a range of issues that we weren't able to cover. So please feel free to get in touch with us through our email.
All right. Well, I put the email address and the website up there. You can reach us if you want to make a donation at shansi.org/annual giving or just /donate. Both go to the same page and allow you to donate online using a secure PayPal portal that you can use a credit card or a PayPal account on. Thank you so much. I think we peaked out at about 50 participants today, which is even more than Ted and I dreamed would be able to join us. So thank you so much. We recorded this webinar, so we'll master that down and post it in the next couple days as well. So if you know anyone who is really interested in what we were discussing today, definitely have them look to the website or our YouTube page where all those videos are going to be and where we'll put up our webinar for you to look at anytime you want at your leisure. So thank you very much. Thank you, Ted. Thank you, Sarah. And thank you, everyone who joined us today. Goodbye. Thank you.